Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Roundup here on Blood Bowl Live. A very special episode of the Roundup, which is here to. Scott's gone already. A very special episode of the Roundup to go over all of the action from, well, as much of the action as we can from the highly anticipated return of Carrot Crunch this year. Joining me to go through all of the games, we have Mr. Scott Bryant, we have Mr. Tom Hovell, and joining us, Tio of Carrot Crunch and friend of the show, Mr. Dave Rue. Gentlemen, thank you all for being here. I'm sure we're all suitably exhausted,
Hooray.
returning to work for a day, but also having spent the entire weekend playing Blood Bowl. How are we all?
Yep, good, thanks. Yep, it was a bit of a roller coaster, but it was a great event. So well done, Dave. That was a great 2-day tournament.
Yes, no, thank you. But it was tiring, but no, I'm pleased we've got back in again. So no, it was good weekend.
Something that I can immediately take. So I'll put this caveat in. Obviously, we do the roundups for the ADBBL. The roundup will be coming back for season 9. We haven't done a roundup in a while. We haven't done a live stream like this in a while. We've done lots of episodes of the podcast, but we haven't done like a live stream like this. I took the decision to do that on this laptop rather than on my PC, which behind me has just come up with the blue screen of death and reset itself. So I'm really glad I made a good decision before today that I was going to commit to this. But yeah, let's focus on Carrot Crunch then. It was a great two. I can't remember I can't remember another 2-dayer here in Suffolk. So probably since Carrot Crunch previously a 2-dayer back in iteration 6. So it's probably that long since we've had 2 days of Blood Bowl here in the county. And a good turnout, 39 coaches with 2 half coaches included in that bundle coming along. Dave, it was a good show and it was a really good crowd.
Yeah, definitely. I was really pleased we got a lot of local coaches as well. I think there was only a couple of people, Andy and Martin, who were kind of out of the region, if you see what I mean, of East Anglia. So it was really nice. I think everybody knew everybody as well, and I think that kind of helped to the good vibe that everybody hopefully had on the day. So yeah, really pleased with the numbers. That was kind of the area we were looking for as well.
I'll do some shout outs now before I forget to do them. I know Dave will want to all the people kind of helped and sponsored. You've got Grebo Games, Aardvarks and Dragons. You've got Carl, who provided all of the honey as prizes. You have got we had Jam provided. Dave, you're going to know more of details about all of these people, but loads of people who contributed bits and pieces here and there for prizes and stuff, and lots of kind of local people chipping in, which was great.
Yeah. So it was Swallowtail Preserves, gentleman named Bruce, who produced the jam for us, and we also had Tom at Cumberline Games, who provided a few more dice in the goodie bags as well. So that was what gave us the difference between the goodie bags. So, and also Burnt Mill Brewery as well, which does the hopsters, which is something that the Aardvarks leagues you guys do across the way. They supplied the pint glasses as well. So yeah, we were trying to keep everything nice and local produce and everything else like that. And I think apart from Carl's commuter bees that were registered with an IP postcode on the back of the thing that said that they were from Essex. So they've obviously got day jobs of going in and doing the honey for him, but everything else like that was local, so it was good.
Amazing. Let's dive in then. Let's have a look at some games. We're going to look at a game from each round, and then talk about some honourable mentions of some games that we want to give some time to as well. Oh man, I'm out of practice clicking through tour play while live on Twitch. I need to remember what I'm doing with myself. The first game that we are going to cover today, a game. So I wasn't there for day one. I was keeping an eye on fixtures from wandering around London and keeping an eye on what was going on. And the game that absolutely jumped out to me for day one was Andy Davo versus Coach Acredes, Scott from the ADBBL. Mainly because Scott, for those who don't know, he runs Aardvarks and Dragons. He runs the Aardvarks League. Very busy man running a great shop in Woodbridge. Means that quite often he doesn't get out to tournaments. Quite often, he was so keen to do this one. And Tom, to be drawn for his first game in a tournament, in a first tournament that he's sort of been able to do for a while, and he's drawn against Andy Davo in game one. It's a welcome back by fire for Scott.
Absolutely. And I know, speaking to him before the actual kind of game, he was kind of saying, well, I've come for fun. I'm not coming to really compete. However, I think his competitive streak came back into him as soon as he saw who he was up against. As you say, the two titans of the game, so to speak, as well. It seemed to be one of those games where both of them were very quiet for a very long amount of time. I finished my game and looked over, and it looked like some kind of chess masters kind of game. And in the way that none of them were looking at each other, they're focused purely on the board, straight down. But yeah, I think they both had a good time on it. There seemed to be some very quick touchdowns, which is, I think, unusual for both of them. We kind of, as you say, know Scott from Aardvarks and Dragons, and he's not one to quickly try and get a load of touchdowns. He likes to play the kind of defensive game quite well. So the first touchdown came on turn 4 with the Goblins. Other thing just to quickly mention with this Orc team, which maybe we can talk about later, he didn't have any linemen. So he had a full roster of blitzers, four blitzers, 4 big uns, an untrained troll, a thrower, and 3 goblins. So it was an interesting setup for him on that side of things.
It's looking at his how the game went. We're so used to talking about Scott's games from a league perspective and at the insane number of clean sheets that he normally has. I don't know if Scott could tell you the last time that he conceded 3 goals in it, 3 touchdowns in a game. It's not what we're used to seeing. But we all know the pedigree that Andy has and Andy brought with him. Dave, it was a really, I mean, the fact it was 2-2 at half time with various sort of one-turn touchdowns and throw teammate touchdowns, I was wondering what the second half was going to be like. It seems like they got so excited to kind of be there and playing in the first half. All the action came then, and then Andy just working hard to get that 3rd touchdown and win the game.
Yeah. I mean, it was because majority of the day I was in the command bunker watching the live stream, so I didn't have much of a view on this. But you kind of knew that Andy was going to play the time management for the game. So I don't know if because Scott scored quickly that Andy felt then he'd have to score quickly again in the first half to give him that eight-turn grind for the second half to get the win. It definitely looks like that was what Andy's plan was. But yeah, like Tom said, every time you sort of looked over that way, you could almost see the steam coming off both of them. It did really seem like a good heated match. But these sort of games are great. I think it's brilliant that Andy will come, and he played a lot of local coaches, and hopefully that's going to help the local coaches. Even Scott, kind of, if Scott runs Vampires next season, we're all going to know why, aren't we? He's seen how to play them. So, but yeah, it looks like Andy got the touchdown on turn 15. So there was still enough time there for Scott to return. But I know that they were really behind, and they were playing into the lunch break because, for some reason I don't know quite why they were so far behind. But I mean, we'd rather everybody finishes their game, and if there's an opportunity, if they're both happy to play in their lunch break, it does seem a bit of a sensible way to go. But yeah, it might be something for future events that we kind of reiterate at the beginning so that everybody understands what the ruling is for that. But it looked like a good start for Andy with a 3-2 win.
Yeah, very good start for the Vampires. I believe, Tom, you can probably confirm this. I think that Scott had kind of sort of set up how he needed to go for 2 turns, get a throw teammate touchdown near the end. But was there a blitz kickoff event that I think put an end to that and took the Goblin out?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe that is the right. He did get a cheeky one-turn touchdown straight after the Andy equalised. So basically, turn 4 got Scott took the lead with a Goblin with so it's 1-0. Then kind of Andy went straight away and kind of equalised straight in that turn. So I think Scott just showed, flex his muscles a little bit and showed that if you can do it in one turn, so can I. And did a cheeky one-turn touchdown with throwing a Goblin to make it 2-1. It then went to turn 8 to draw level, and as you say, it went right to the wire to the end on turn 15 to go up 3-2 to Andy.
The first round is always an interesting one because it is completely random. Like the Swiss system comes into play as the more games that are played. But to start with, obviously, anyone could be paired with anyone, and this was such a great match to see, sort of as the initial pairing. Were there any other fixtures that you guys kind of jumped out from that first round? There were lots of very tight results in that first running. A big win for Darren. Against a Corn team, 3-0 victory for him to start the day. And Goblins getting a 3-0 win as well against other Goblins, a Goblin mirror match to start their adventure as well.
Yeah. There was one game that stood out for me. Well, I say stood out. There was quite a few in there. My boy Shane from the Chelmsford League, he was playing another Chelmsford coach in Andrew, Mr. Frodo. And I think obviously they probably play each other quite a lot, so they probably wasn't that pleased. But Shane came through on that one. But the main one that I wanted to talk about, or highlight, was Elliot got to play Luca from the Langdon League. So they're both really good coaches, and it ended up in a draw. So that would have been a nice one. If I could have kept my eye on one of the games, I think that would have been one that I would have been interested in, just to see how Elliot would get on against Luca.
Yeah, and it's just to point just out at this moment, there was a nice spread of teams. So we had the most teams played with Norse, 4 Norse, 3 Goblin, 3 Dwarf, 3 Shambling Undead, 3 Skaven, 3 Vampires, 2 Ogres, 2 Chaos Renegades, 2 Lizardmen, 2 Orc, and then there was a nice spread amongst a number of others. The interesting part here, as you can probably know, is there was quite a lot of bashy teams. There was only really 3 elf teams, 1 Union, 1 High Elf, and 1 Dark Elf. So it was very much a bashy kind of affair.
A very good round 1. Let's dive into round 2 then after the lunch break. And let's start with the game which... so all the games from the top table were streamed. They're all available on Blood Bowl Live. And they'll be on Twitch for the next week, but they'll be on Blood Bowl Live forever on YouTube. So go have a look at them. And the top table game was... I think it's probably fair to say a coach who didn't expect to be on the top table, let alone expect to be on the top table twice. He brought Goblins with the intention of winning a Stunty Cup in this tournament. And for a lot of the tournament, I don't think anyone was discounting him taking home the full blown win. I think there was a chance that he was going to miss out on the Stunty Cup because he was going to do too good. Dave, Phil well. He's heavily involved in the Ipswich League. I mean, this getting a 2-2 draw against Andy in game 2 and being on the top table. What a start for his weekend.
Yeah, no, I think it just shows the power of the one-turn touchdown. The live stream, I've clipped it and put it on the Ipswich Facebook page just for the one turn, and you can hear the cheers in the background when it went through. I mean, sadly, they're a little bit behind, so their dice rolled back. But yeah, it was one of those. I think Phil's never going to forget this as long as he lives. But yeah, the noise from everyone in the background, we're really enjoying it. But with regards to Phil, we've just come off the back of doing a stunty league over the Ipswich, which was his idea, and I think everyone found it tough going. So the fact that he brought Goblins for this event, I think he was just going for the stunty cup. But there was at one point he was up for about 5 awards because he would have been runner up, he would have been stunty, he would have been Daryl Newman with the highest local player, and I think touchdowns and casualties he was near or thereabouts as well. So he's done phenomenal. He really has. So really pleased with what he's done, and it's nice sometimes to have a local player do well as well in these events. So it just sort of, you get that local show, and so he's done really well, Phil has.
Let's have a little look at the two teams here. So Andy's vampire build is relatively standard. He's got a vampire lord there. He's got 4 rerolls in this team. Block on a thrower, leader on a thrower to give him another reroll, frenzy and strip ball on the blitzers, and dodge on both the runners. Filling out the team with thralls, having a good number of subs there. So quite a kind of good sort of relatively standard vampire build, successful build that I think we've seen in a lot of tournaments. The goblins
before you click on Phil's, just to say the naming of the team was taken in full jest and in good humour.
Good. I'm glad, because that was entertaining to see when they were drawn to each other. Looking at his roster here, he's really gone for it here. He's brought in Varag, a secondary of block on both of his trolls, then sure feet and sidestep in there so that he's got some good options. A sneaky get in there, a goblin with guard just to throw a little bit of danger into the mix. And he's only gone for one weapon in there as well. He's gone for a chainsaw, and he's gone for the Doom Diver. So he hasn't gone for a lineup there that I think, particularly in the AD BBL, that we're used to with regards to kind of weapons and that brutality and that chaos. It's quite a structured, targeted goblin build that he's gone for.
Yeah,
he's got the bribe on there as well. Sorry, Tom, go on.
No, sorry. No, I was just about to say, it was just about that. For me, this was the first time I'd seen the Doom Diver. A couple of people with the Goblin teams took a Doom Diver, and they are definitely worth the money for a Goblin team for touchdowns. Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, no, that's all right. Yeah, I know the bribe, but I think also you look at the other Goblin linemen that he's got on there. I think they're designed to be thrown as well with a sure feet. And I know when I've played Phil before, when we've played a stunty team, he can muster up a throw teammate from almost nothing and score touchdowns from it. So I think his objective was just to try and go for the one turn whenever he can. But I know later on in some of the games I was watching, you could see that he was actually trying to manage the clock and trying to stall for a period of time to take the turns away from his opponent. So he obviously adapted on the day. But yeah, that's when you look at it, it just all makes sense, doesn't it? He's got quite a deep bench. He's got the rerolls. He's got the bribe. He's picked the right star player, the right skills on the trolls. So I would be surprised to see a build like this in other tournaments coming up, because it does make sense.
It's a very good build. I do like it. It's like I said, something I'm not used to. I'm so used to seeing much more kind of chaotic, different themes within the Goblin team. But I really like this as a build. And it did do really well for him. We don't have the turns in which things happened, but you can tell by the clock roughly how things were kind of moving forward. He gets an early touchdown to take a 1-0 lead here. Andy does well to get two touchdowns in, about an hour in, and then about 2 hours in, gets 2 touchdowns. But the one turner comes to equalize, and he sort of starts and ends the game in perfect fashion to get that draw, and will have been very happy with the draw. It's good points towards the Stunty Cup, which is what he wanted. So a really, really strong result for Phil. Andy, 2 tough games for Andy to start with, and 2 high-scoring games, but we'll probably be happy to be sort of getting points here. And a 6-game tournament is a long slog. So to go through the first day at least being unbeaten, even if there's a draw in there, you're still in the mix for day 2. Looking at round 2, then, were there any other fixtures that jumped out? Again, we've got some high-scoring games here. Darren racking up 4 touchdowns in this one, so he's absolutely, his vampires are scoring a lot as the games go on, and another 4-0 for the other vampires as well against Norse. So vampires getting lots of touchdowns over this over this day. Any fixtures here that jumped out to you guys?
I'll jump in there. So there was one a little bit further down. Scott from New Dice Please. Don't know if you've heard of it. Our boy Scott and Will. So I know Will normally plays. He's from the Essex area. I know he's played in a league in Colchester, and he plays sometimes down in Chelmsford as well. We've seen him up in Langdon, and I think he might have gone to the Classic. But he played up against our Scott, both of them taking agility teams. So I thought it would have been a little bit more high scoring, knowing the way that both of these two guys play. But Scott come through with a 2-1. So that was a good result. But again, I think if it would have been nice if I could have if all of the games were streamed and I could pick them. I think that would have been one that I would have watched a bit more closely. But yeah, that one sort of stood out to me. And sorry, Tom, if I could just jump in with one more.
Please do.
There was here we go. So our John Reader was playing against Shane. So it was nice to see these two face each other off. Ogres versus Orc. Both of them knew what they were doing. And that game ended in a 1-1 as well. So yeah, that was another game. I know I picked Shane out twice now, but he doesn't get to many tournaments, bless him. So it's nice that he's just out of the house, really.
Tom?
Yeah, it's the fact is that yes, were a couple of runaway games, as you just mentioned, especially with Darren there coming up with a 4-0 after a 3-0 one in the previous round. But again, there's been some very close games. There's quite a few draws in this one. I think because obviously, as you say, it's a Swiss kind of tournament. The first round's a bit random, but now we're starting to get into that level. So you're now starting to see a lot of people getting their equal, so to speak. I personally had a great game against Luca with the Gnomes. First time playing against Gnomes. That was a good, fun game, I have to say. It was back to back with a lot of things. Those trees were causing me no end of problems. And I thought I had it in the bag, but he brought it back brilliantly. The White Dwarf, that's a secret special superstar, I think, with the ability to just give special skills to different players. That he played that really, really well.
A good second round then, and we go into round 3, and the top table game. Local boy, ADBBL veteran and IBL player, James is on the top table with his Rats. I do still give him the credit for the best team name, in my opinion. I'm loving now that's what I call music. A 2-1 victory against a Norse team, which will have been a good challenge for the Skaven, a Bashi team to come up against, but not too different on the armor. And a 2-1 victory. James comes into this game with 2 wins from 2, so makes it 3 wins from 3 from the day. I think he was the only coach to go 3 wins from 3 on day 1. So a very, very impressive run. We'll have been hoping that the day 2 was cancelled, I imagine, when he got home to take away the win. But a good result here for James, getting a early touchdown. And it looks like they did turns for some of the game, but missed it at the end. But getting a touchdown on turn 3. Norse come in to equalise. Touchdown from Rolf Werner, you don't see overly often. And then a gutter runner coming in again to take the 2-1 win. Dave, we know what James can do. He's a former ADBBL champion. He had a great season with IBL this season. We know how good he is, and we know how much he likes Skaven. No one should be surprised to see him playing at the top after day 1.
No, definitely not. And I think where you see he's generating these casualties with the Rat Ogre, I did watch some of this game, and he was using that Rat Ogre really well. To sort of go after the higher armor things so that the claws would kick in. But he's always a threat. He's a really good coach. He won season 1 of the iBox League with a Skaven team, so he definitely knows what he's doing. So he did deserve the win. So yeah, all credit to him. And if there was an award for first day winner, he would have to have it, but sadly there isn't.
Tom, it wasn't exactly an easy third game for him. His opponent's Norse team, we're going to see them again on the top table, hovering at the top as well over the whole weekend. You know, if we know nothing else about this coach, we know that there is a star next to their name, and therefore there is pedigree there. So you know, a tough game, but one he comes out with the points.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, just to point out, this is another thing that I noticed was in particular for the Carrot Crunch. It was the lack of star players. So it seems to be a thing where people are now starting to play more as a solid team rather than taking a star player and relying heavily. And this was one of those games. Yeah, it looked like it was a fun game. And even though there was quite a low kind of casualty rating as well.
It's interesting, like you mentioned about the lack of star players. No star players on these ones, and also the team value that you could bring. The rule set was 1.2 rather than 1.15, gives you that extra. And you do then see some slightly different builds, people bringing in slightly different players, people who have just got that extra money to, you know, to bring that extra gutter runner, that extra reroll. You know, a few different team builds that you kind of start to see. Um,
I
Dave,
think also, sorry, Chris.
yeah.
I think also as well, the kind of the low level, the low number of skills on tier 1 and tier 2. I think that discourages from taking stars to a certain extent. I did a Amazon build as the odd man out, and I took Estelle, and that meant that I could only put 3 skills on my Amazon team. So when you look at it with only 3 skills on there, you kind of think, wow, you know, potentially I could struggle with this sort of a list. So I think the low number of skills again stop people from taking star players in tier 2 and tier 1 to a certain point.
Yeah.
So after a game, you know, you finish the day with a 2-1 win. If you're James here, you are top at the end of day one. How do you know, in most tournaments you've kind of come against your most difficult opponent because you've got 3 games, maybe 4 games, you know, and you've hit your top, you've hit your most difficult opponent. James is now looking at a second day of playing the cream of the Carrot Crunch crop on day 2. Dave, you've done 2-day tournaments before. Do you approach day 2 any differently? Because, you know, based on where you are, does it give you a different kind of mindset? Because there's no random draw, hopefully getting someone, you know, worse. There's nothing like that. You are now where you are, and you know, day 2 is going to be more difficult.
I think you sit there and you mull it over. So you try and predict who you're going to play, and obviously James being at the top of the tree, it's probably very clear who he's going to play. But you do sit there and you mull it over all evening. It's almost as if they've done the draw for day 1 the day before, so you know who you're playing. So it does kind of play on your mindset. You kind of sit there and think, oh, you know, when you build the team, you might think, oh, I'd be weak against this type of a team, and if you're facing them for day 2, then that will play on your mind. I know James washed his t-shirt overnight to try and keep the luck in it, but I don't know if that really did help him. But yeah, he was he it does sort of play into you because he's getting a better idea of who's around. And like you were saying with Sam's a fantastic coach. He really is, and he does appear on the top table again. So James is looking at the people that are around him and know who he could potentially face. And he's probably thinking 2 or 3 games ahead, or 1 or 2 games ahead. And you know, if I can turn the next game over, then these are the sort of people that I'm going to place. So it does, but it's good. It keeps you off the drink, I think, overnight as well.
There were a few other games then that happened, obviously in round 3, a few to kind of pull out. The Vampires, the high-scoring Vampires, got a 1-1 draw in that second day. Andy gets another win. That takes him 2 wins and a draw for the day, keeps him in the hunt. Joe Thomas with his Amazons takes a draw for the day. He's had a good day 1 as well. Any games here that jump out for you that happened? There's lots of high scoring games happening up and down the table. A 3-1 for Lizards, a 4-2 for those Goblins again. What ones jump out?
For me, there's one in the middle of the pack. So we call him New Justin, but only because we've got two Justins. But he played Nick from the Chelmsford League, and they're two really nice people. And I can imagine this was probably the most politest, most kind-hearted. Oh, if you want to roll it back, that's fine. These two guys are lovely guys. They're always fantastic to play against. So Justin came in with a 2-1 win with his humans over the Shambling Undead for Nick. But yeah, that again, if I could have streamed all of the games, that would have been one that I would love to have seen, because they're two lovely blokes. So I can imagine it was the politest game of Blood Bowl ever.
Tom?
I suppose the one that stood out for me was probably one of the lowest points is my game, which was I lost 3-0 to Goblins when playing against Dwarfs, and I have to say, hats off to Paul. His dice were on absolute fire. The fact that he took out both my Troll Slayers on his first turn, killing them, and then by turn 5, I was 7 players in the casualty box. I just couldn't get a break at all. I only managed to I got a final kind of injury on one of the trained trolls at the end, but 3-0 loss. But hats off, he played that very well, and that was again where I found that the Doom Diver really comes into its own when it's for scoring for Goblins.
So day one done. We've got some people who are looking the hunt, some people who are looking up rather than looking down. And interestingly, what happened overnight, Dave, part of the tournament pack, was that you could gain a skill on a lineman for your next day. Did you? What was the kind of thinking behind that? Because I really liked it as kind of feeling like throughout the course of the tournament your team levels up a bit, or you learn something in day one and you add a skill to help with that in day two. I think it was a really nice quirk. What was the kind of thinking behind it?
So obviously there's a past history with the Carrot Crunch. The first one was 2007, and the last one, apart from this one, was 2012. And I was digging through some of the old paperwork that I had from previous events, and I found the rules pack for the first two Blood Bowl events that I went to. And the builds were, you only had 1 million build to start with. And then after the first game was when you start allocating skills. So after each game, you could allocate a skill. So obviously, modern day tournaments, you get all the money up front already, and you get all the skills up fronted. So we wanted to try and bring a little bit of that old history into this rules pack, but we didn't want it to sort of put people off. But again, we wanted to sort of see some sort of different run of the mills. But I think also the emphasis is that you could see what teams were there and you could build your skill pack around it. So some of the feedback that we got from the skills that people that gave to their team was that they felt that was the missing thing that they missed from the first 3 games. Speaking to Phil from Lowestoft, he was saying, yeah, I think it was Dirty Player who put on one of his linemen, and for him, he felt like it made the difference. But if it had a better tournament, it would have been a different skill. So we wanted to keep a little bit of the element of the old on it, but we also wanted to sort of give you that little bit of flexibility that you don't seem to get anymore. You turn up with a roster that's pre-made, and if you're sitting there after game one and thinking, well, I've got this wrong, then there's not much you can do about it. So I think we got the balance right between the two aspects that we wanted, and it was nice that some people put some wacky stuff on there, some people put some obvious stuff on there, but yeah, I think it created a good discussion. It got people talking about their rosters, and maybe made them sort of think, well, if I add this skill, then I can play slightly a different way for the second half of the event. So yeah, that was the main reason behind it.
It certainly, for my opponent on my first game on game 4, gave me something to think about with a dauntless goblin that was causing me no end of issues for my Lizardman team. Round 4 comes into play. Then we're all back, fresh faced the following morning, and we're going to go back to the top table with 2 teams that we've seen already on the top table It is the Goblins who are having an amazing run versus the unbeaten Skaven team. With 3 wins from 3 in an incredible game. Two fantastic coaches who know and have played each other and attended tournaments with each other before. They'll have been no strangers to each other. It looked so much fun, sort of from across the room. It looked like they were having an absolutely great time to start the second day on this table. A 2-2 victory for the Goblins with 3 casualties and 3 bonus points to go with it. Another 2-2 draw even. A great well, maybe 2-2 is a victory for Goblins, who knows. A really good a good next step towards getting one hand on the Stunty Cup as well. And the Skaven being stopped at the very end, I believe, as well. It was a bit back and forth on this one. Dave, you were watching this from the your headquarters, your brain center. I mean, this one looked great. This one looked fantastic. It looked so much fun.
Yeah, it started out as the top table clash, but I think because the two opponents, James and Phil, knows each other, and they've played each other a good couple of times, it almost felt like it ended up being a league game. You could hear a lot of laughter and a lot of banter going on. So it did turn into a bit more of a sort of a friendly game than the kind of the hushed tones that you get with the top table sometimes. So, but I think Phil's living his best life with this team. He really is. Again, he's scoring late to stay in the game. And I think all credit to him. It just shows his resilience as a Goblin coach. But then I guess if you're playing Goblins, you've got to have some resiliency, haven't you? Really. But yeah, all credit to him and stopping James as well, because James was on a flow. He knew what he was doing with these teams, with the Skaven. People were struggling to break it down or to stop him. It looked like he always had an abundance of gutter runners on the table, so he always had options. So yeah, all credit to Phil for staying in this game.
Tom, it's a great result for the Goblins. It's tough, isn't it? Because you start day 2, and in a way, it's a whole new day. In a way, it can be a complete fresh start. In another way, you're looking at what you achieved yesterday, and you don't want to undo that work. You think maybe Phil possibly happier with a draw than James, but 4 wins and a draw going into the last 2 is a great position to be in.
Absolutely, yeah. Goblins never say die by the looks of things, because it does really looks like they had obviously got a bit of a battering to start off with a number of linemen injured. But yeah, and always coming up second on the touchdowns as well, because obviously the gutter runners are doing what gutter runners do on that team. And yeah, I was down the other end of the actual hall, and I could hear the laughter and the squeals of joy or anguish coming from the top table.
James is in the chat, said Phil handled those Goblins amazingly. Can't fault him. Take a lot of learnings away from that game for sure. So both coaches taking a lot away from it. What other games in round 4 jumped out to us on this one? It was a fresh day, a fresh start for everyone. Numpties with a what looks like a fun 2-2 draw with 3-3 on casualties. Chaos Renegade against Skaven, against Carl down near the bottom. Otherwise, all the results looking pretty tight. I think, like you mentioned, lots of draws coming in. Everyone's kind of maybe found their level, and lots of 1-1s, 0-0s, 2-2s. A tight game. Anything jump out?
Well, there is a game. Sorry, Tom. I keep jumping on your toes there. So, table 3, we've got Darren from the Chelmsford, and we've got Grant, who runs the Fenland Bowl up in the Norfolk area. And Grant is a really, really good coach. We see him on the tournament scene a lot, and he's a solid coach. So again, I don't want to repeat myself, but this would have been the match that I would have seen. Darren's got years of experience on him as well. And to come in 2-1 against Grant, I think that would have been a standout, and obviously it's got implications on the top table as well. So yeah, that would have been for me the standout second game on that on day 2.
Tom?
Yeah, it's one of those things that a bit like yourselves, I've come across a number of these people, and we know the stars are on this list. You know, even from within the county kind of thing, or within East Anglia, but they seem to be coming up against it. You know, some people you would have think by now would be storming away. No, they're either just about scraping through a victory or being held to a draw. So there's some great little games in this set. As you say, this for me was my first 2-day event, and it was interesting to kind of get your head back into it and go, okay, well, I've got another 3 more games. And funny enough, I was amazed that how quickly the first game on the second day ends, and you're looking up, and you go, crummies, it's midday already. My head's just been straight in the game. So yeah, like I said, there's a number of draws there that were interesting, like table 12 with Scott and Ben being held to a 1-1 draw. You've got some clearly some old Arvarks and Dragon challenges with Jack and Harrison on table 11 again, 1-1. So, and equally, the infamous Tom Huns on table 13 being held to a draw as well. So these are these kind of people you'd think, oh, well, they'll definitely get a win the first game, but no.
Yeah, it was for me coming in starting at the bottom. I was a bit caught off guard to see some very good coaches who maybe had a tough first day, sort of near the bottom end of the table, hoping I would not have to play them at all. Luckily, I avoided some of them, not all of them, but it was a tough group all over. I don't think any easy games up and down the table. Looking at round 5, then. James Handley remains on the top table against Darren, against those vampires in a close 1-1 draw. We're actually going to have a look at table 2, and we're going to look at the 3-1 win for the Amazons. Joe, going under the radar, I think always in that kind of area with the top coaches in this tournament. Looking at kind of how Joe's results went on the previous day, he got two tight wins and a draw on the previous day, kept him in contention. And then he's on game 2 with a very impressive 3-1 win against Renegades here to really put him in the fight going into the final round. Goes 1-0 down to the Dark Elf, but then 3 touchdowns coming later on. A really, really good comeback here and putting himself in the fight. Dave, we know Joe. Joe is a local lad, but I've seen Joe more at kind of. I've seen him at tournaments in London. Like he goes all around. He plays a lot of good coaches. He very much focuses on kind of his tournament play rather than leagues, and he absolutely was on a good run coming into day 2.
Yeah, definitely. I know he was talking about that he was on an unbeaten streak with Amazon, and I think it was about 8 or 9 at this stage. So he was very confident. But Jim is an old veteran. Jim is a past Carrot Crunch winner. He's been around long enough to be able to sort of deal with Amazons as well. He's a top coach. With Renegades, I don't know what his record is like. So yeah, this was a big matchup, and I know the score changed very quickly at one stage. I don't think they were doing the turns, but I know Jim went ahead, and then next time I looked at the game, it was 2-1, and then it was 3-1, and then it was over. So this one, it was done fairly quick, an hour and a half. It's saying that the game was done in. So I know these guys got done in double quick time, but yeah, either of one of these two knew that they'd be playing on the top table in the last game. So it was almost like a semi-final. So yeah, well done, Joe, on pulling this one through and keeping your unbeaten record going with the Amazons.
Tom, you've played Amazons before yourself. We've seen Amazons go unbeaten in our league. Just 2 seasons ago, went unbeaten, 10 wins in a row to get the win. So we know they can do it. They're tier 1 for a reason, and he's got a good set of skills on here. Block, guard, block, wrestle. Went for dirty player on alignment to give him a little threat there. Didn't go very positional heavy. But it's absolutely paid off for him. He's built a strong team and he's got a good result here.
Yeah, absolutely. And he, as you quite rightly say, he kind of went under the radar on day 1, just getting some you know, kind of the classic 2-1 wins and a draw, 1-1 draw. But clearly he came sprinting out of the blocks on day 2. And again, this is what I love about having it all on tour players. You can kind of look back and go, well, what skills they put on them? How did they play well against different teams, and what sort of teams they were being compared against? Yeah, so it was a really, really interesting one to see this. And equally, an interesting piece here is that he's got an apothecary, which again is a very, I kind of think of that as a bit of an unusual thing to have. But I suppose with armor 8, you kind of need it just in case.
And with just 4 positionals as well, it gives you that bit of protection, doesn't it? It's, you know, there's not many other people to fill in if you do lose someone key. I really like how tour play looks on this one. That it goes behind, then goes 3-1 up, and then starts fouling as much as possible. Is quite entertaining to kind of see how that would have sort of gone. But Joe putting himself in the mix for the win, putting himself where he needs to be going into game 3. What other games in round 5 jumped out to people then? Tom, obviously our matchup was a tight game, a 2-1 battle for us. 6-0 win for the Skaven against the Goblins at the bottom has to be a jump out. That's a great shout. Any games here that caught your guys' eyes?
I've got one in the middle of the pack, if Tom will let me go first. So again, New Justin versus the man, the myth, the legend, Ashley Mookstar 10. So you've got to love him. But yeah, so these guys have played multiple times down the Black Horse. And every time I came over, I seem to have changed everybody's luck. So obviously, as the TO, I had to go around and make sure that at certain points everybody was still on track and they'd made a decision on how they were going to end the game. But I seem to think every time I come over, I change Justin's luck with this game a little bit. But actually, he started playing Lizards, and I think that this might be the team for him. He originally came off playing a lot of Shambling Undead, and we couldn't change his mind with that. He went Slan. He's gone a couple of other teams that he's given a try. But I think, Chris, you called me the master of the Lizards, and my boys took the mickey out of me for that. They think I'm going to do a bank job of a load of lizards that I can control my hands. But I think Ashley's going to be one to watch out for with these lizards, because they, like I said previously, they are nice and easy to play, but they fill a lot of holes. So yeah, this was an interesting game, and I think it was really close at the end. And from what I can remember, I think Ashley failed a couple of rolls to keep it at 1-1. But yeah, that was my standout game for match 5.
I'll have an eye on Ash next season, because I think he's bringing those lizards to the ADBBL season 9. So I will have my fellow lizard back very much watched on that one. Tom, what about you?
Yeah, equally, just a little piece, because this is the game straight after lunch. And if you remember, Chris, we came into after getting food and coming into the nice little area. We got like chill out area, and there was Ash with a A4 ring binder of all different tactics, if you remember correctly.
He did have a playbook, didn't he?
Yeah, he did he's got a proper Blood Bowl playbook. It was almost like NFL,
That's my old one. That's all the old articles that they used to put in there. So I brought it down for him to see, but I kept saying there's not a lizard playbook in there, mate. There's not a lizard playbook in there. So, but I think obviously he was looking at the playbook of the other person that he was playing. But yeah, hopefully he's going to take it serious for the Aardvarks League. I'm sure he will. But yeah, God love him.
That's round 5. We go into round 6, then the final round of the day, and at the top table it's the battle for the win. It's short of a draw between these two and some good results elsewhere. It is 2 coaches, and winner takes the title. And we said he was going under the radar, got the wins when he needed to, and his unbeaten Amazon run takes him to the title, a 1-0 win against the Norse in what was, again, a very quick game. Joe is a very quick player of this game, getting done in just 1 minute 20, and a 1-0 win against Sam. two coaches with stars next to their names, and absolutely showed a really two strong coaches who had fantastic days. I mean, going into this one, I think the record for the Norse was just slightly worse, with a loss against the Rats rather than a victory. Otherwise, two very similar records near the top. Tom, a deserved winner, Joe. He's gone unbeaten throughout the whole day. I think looking back on it, only three coaches didn't lose a game over the 2 days. Absolutely deserves to be there in the top spot.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was an interesting one, like you say, because even Sam was going under the radar as well, because he wasn't really coming up on the main table, or kind of setting the scoreboards alight. Really, he was just playing a methodical, straightforward game as well. So it just goes to show what you can achieve in these tournaments. You don't have to go for the big wins all the time. Just play your own game, to take it each game as it comes, sort of thing. And equally, the final points on the standings really does show the pedigree of the people that came to the event, which was, it's hats off to everyone. Fantastic plays.
Dave, was this you will have kind of had an eye on this match from the nerve center? The final that you wanted, a close final here to finish the day.
Yeah, definitely. Both of those two coaches are top quality coaches. So yeah, there's no surprise. I'm glad Phil wasn't in the final. So it was nice to see these two there. And Joe's an amazing coach, and he lives around the corner. So and again, Sam, we saw him out in Wales this year, and so forth. He's an amazing coach as well. But this final was done in record time. Literally, I was chatting to somebody in the command bunker, and I was trying to keep my eye on the game as well. I went round to do my 1 hour check, and I thought that they were at the end of the first half, but then I was watching the screen and go, they're shaking their hands. Why are they shaking their hands? Kind of come running out, and the game was over. So yeah, obviously the Amazons played the way that they had to get the win. From what I heard, I don't think Sam had much luck with his dice, but yeah, really pleased that a local lad has took the carrot crunch, and he took down a previous carrot crunch on the way with Jim. So it's more than deserved with Joe, definitely.
You only have to be on the top table in that last game. Like Tom said, you don't need to be there beforehand. You just need to be there at the end. And he had the consistency throughout the 2 days, which brought him the win. Lots of other good results going up and down the table. Ash and his Lizards getting a 4-2 win to end his day, which is a great way to end. Lots of other close games. Andy Davo gets a 3-2 win against Tom Huns. That will have been a very good one to watch as well. And a 3-3 win near the bottom of the table, or 3-3 draw even. Andy with his Vampires versus Will with his Skaven. So lots of great games here. Tom, which one, is there another game that stands out for you? I mean, your best game came at the very depth there with the 4-0 win against Goblins, redeeming that Goblin loss the day before.
Yeah, that was a good one. Although I think Chris was more interested in the fouling than the actual scoring. But that was a very enjoyable last game for me, especially on that side of things. But again, as you can see, this is the level that people are playing at. The scores on the last ones are still pretty tight. There was apparently a pretty horrific one with Justin against Robert. So that was Dwarfs versus Norse, where I think Justin literally started slaughtering Norse left, right, and centre.
Yes, a good comeback from Justin, having finished the second day quite low down the table, but really fighting his way back up near the top. And a good day for Robert. He's disappeared from the local scene for a while, gone off to uni, but he's come back for the summer, and he's brought a terrifying team back from the dead as well. So it's going to be great fun to see him back. Dave, were there any other games here that jumped out to you as the last game of the day? I mean, it was a proper battle for the Stunty Cup, in the final game, with Goblins versus Gnomes, and either one could have claimed it if there was a win there.
Yeah, that game was really sort of held a lot in the balance. I mean, the two lads, Phil and Luca, they took a picture of each other holding the thumbs up, put it into their respective league chats. I'm in both leagues, so I both saw the pictures come up at the same time. So snipped them both together and then sent them back in the chat saying "you guys" kind of thing. So again, it was. I mean, Luca's a fantastic lad, and so is Phil. You know, give him his dues. They really created a good game for it. But again, Phil was in contention for so many trophies near the end. He was when he was winning, he was up for runner up. Stunty, Daryl Newman, because he's a local lad. I think his touchdowns and casualties was there or thereabouts. So yeah, he had a few decisions to make, but I think Tom, you're underestimating your victory down the bottom there. That was your first League One, first tournament victory, wasn't it as well?
Um, Looking back, it was only the second, but yes, it was. It's been a desert of lack of wins. Yeah, so it was fun. It was good end to a fantastic tournament.
Well, let's have a look at how
As
the
well. Sorry, Chris. Just
go on.
like the one that you were saying with Amazing Will and Andy as well. I mean, these guys were running a little bit late, so I wasn't quite sure how it was going to get done. But it was one of those games where you hear both coaches sort of shout, hands go up. Do you know what I mean? And I think one of them must have made it 3-3, and then there was a handshake, and they called it at that point. But again, it's do you know what I mean? It just shows the strength of the community that we've got locally. That these two guys, they probably hadn't even met each other, or that they might have actually with these two. But it seems like it was a fitting end for both of them on the day for ending on a 3-3.
Lots of great games happening in the final round. Let's have a look at the standings then as they finished. Joe takes the victory in first place there, 178 points. Darren second, just behind, and Best is in third. Darren, another coach who sort of was only on the top table, for one game towards the end, and very close. Also went unbeaten for the day with two draws and 4 wins. Phil taking the Stunty Cup, finishing up there in fourth place, an incredible result for those Goblins. Again, going unbeaten. Actually, 3 draws and 3 wins for Phil is a really, really fantastic result. James ended up down in ninth place with a slightly worse second day, but a really good score of 131, just above some Lizards. Andy Davo coming in at 11th there. Looking towards the bottom of the table, Chris, we've got to give Chris some credit. He came with a goal, he came with a plan, and that plan was to get as many fouls as possible. And he got 61 fouls as the day went on. I mean, that's 10 fouls a game. And when I played him, it was certainly very much his goal was, he was getting annoyed if he got any knockouts because he wanted that player on the ground so he could foul it again. It was he came with a mission, and he got those fouls. He leaves with the wooden spoon as well, but a fun showing nonetheless. Looking at some of the other prizes, I think Torplay does show us some of these. We've got first, second, third there. Skaven, Will with that 6-0 win, helping him towards most touchdowns. Justin, that brutal last game against the Tipsy Tankers, gives him most casualties. And the Daryl Newman Award going to Gnomes there, going to is a Langdon coach. Is that right?
Yes, Luca. Yeah.
Luca, taking the Darren Newman Award for the highest placed Suffolk player. A really good award to get, and award that I know means a lot to all of us. A fantastic tournament then. Dave, any final thoughts on Carrot Crunch 7? I know that we're all very much hoping and will hold you to Carrot Crunch 8 coming up next year. Any final thoughts?
No, just really pleased. I mean, I think we spoke, didn't we, Chris, after the classic last year, and I thought the classic, everything was fantastic about the classic, the location, everything else like that, and it just felt like we were ripe for a 2-day tournament locally. It really did, and again, it's with the so many events we've got locally, so many good events we've got locally as well. It's difficult to find a space in the calendar, but I think where we are with the Carrot Crunch, it's a good place. The location, the venue's brilliant. We can expand. The rule set we might tinkle with, but we're not going to mess around with it too much. But for me, it was everybody who came that made the event great. You know, we can put the venue on and everything else like that, but it takes everybody to come down and to play the game in the spirit that it is. And it did feel like such a good community that we've got down here. So I'm already looking forward to Carrot Crunch 8. I'm hoping that Shane will set out this one and I can play, or maybe not. I don't know, but or maybe we'll alternate the teams or something. But yeah, really enjoyed it. It was so nice having it back. And I don't know if people noticed, but you probably didn't. But I think about the last game, between the fifth and the sixth game, there was the other coach, Paul Pigstar, who came down from. He used to be part of the three that originally ran it, and we were lucky that our wives would help out and our children would all come down as well, and it was a family affair. So it was so nice to see him and his partner Jen come down as well. And he's sniffing around. He might come back. I don't know if he will or he won't, but he is a fantastic coach. He really is, and he'll be a credit to the Suffolk community. And we might actually win some East Anglian games if we have him on our team. So yeah, but it's going to be around the same sort of time next year. Carrot Crunch 8. There's, you know, we're calling out for another 2-day event in the calendar. So really looking forward to doing it again, all again next year.
Dave, thanks so much for putting on the great tournament and joining us today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching this on YouTube. Thanks for being with us for this roundup. Roundup will be back in a few weeks' time. We will start to preview ADBBL Season 9 as that kicks off towards the end of the month. If you're interested, that league is starting soon. Get in touch with Ardvites and Dragons if you haven't got your space already. There's also many other tournaments happening around the region as well. So keep an eye out. There is let's see if I can reel all these off. We have got the Suffolk Subterranean Showcase. The third version of that is happening later in the year. We have Norfolk and Chance happening up in King's Lynn. We also have, there's one that's happening up at Nest Point, and I can't remember the name of it, Dave.
Nest Point Cup.
Nest Point Cup happening up in Lowestoft. There will be Death on the Demon 3. There's Fenland Bowl that is happening as well. A lot of these events are filling up quick, so get yourself hooked up on those. Local leagues wise, there's loads of local leagues you can join as well over at Alpha Games, up at Athena, up in Norfolk. You've got the IBBL, you've got the ADBBL, and you've got Langdon all around Ipswich and Woodbridge. You've got loads of games locally. Get yourself involved. Thanks so much for being with us. We will see you when the roundup returns in a few weeks' time.